Hello everyone, my name is Irfan Shahzad from Tackle Macho. So in the last session, we did the installation of IBM Data Power. Today we are going to cover the actual development of development within IBM Data Power by implementing a multi-protocol gateway service. So let's get started. So the first thing we need is we need to make sure that our Data Power process is working. If it's not working, you can always start either with the command or from the GUI. So I'm going to show both of. So we created it with the container with IBM Data Power. So this is going to start the Data Power process. Thing is, we need to refresh. Okay. So let's log into the Data Power using the same credentials, admin, which are created for us by default. So once we are logged in, you can click uh, this multi-protocol gateway icon on the home page. So it will show you if there are any services which you have implemented. So we are going to implement a new multi-protocol gateway. Um, so we are going to call it hello MPG. So MPG, it's a short form that people normally use for multi-protocol gateway. It's our first Data Power service. Okay. Uh, so for now, you just need to follow along. Hopefully, later in the course, I'll cover all of these things. Uh, okay. So the most important part within this configuration is called this processing policy. So we need to create uh, a new processing policy. This is where you define all the logic, how we are going to do certain processing on the data before sending it to the backend. And once we receive a response, whether we are going to do certain manipulation on the response before sending it to the client. So let's call it hello MPG policy. Uh, so within a policy, you can define within a processing policy. So only a single processing policy can be attached to a service. Within a processing policy, you can define multiple rules. So let's call it a request rule. Um, so this is actually the assembly. Another important thing is the direction. So for each rule, you define a direction when this rules will be applied. So whether you want it to be applied on both direction. Both direction means it will be used as a request as well as a response rule, or you want it only for a request rule, which in which case the direction would be client to server, or a response rule where the direction will be server to client, or whether you want to specify any error handling. So in that case, it will be specified as a error rule. For now, we'll call it we'll associate it with client to server rule. Another important thing is this match rule. So since there can be multiple rules, so how Data Power will decide which rule to execute? The first mandatory action within a rule is called this match rule. So within a match rule, you define the criteria for the selection of that rule for processing. Um, so what we are going to do is we are going to create a new rule, which we call it match all. It's a reusable uh, construct, so this is the reason why I have not associated it with any implementation. So there are multiple criterias which you can define for the rule. So we are keeping it simple. We are saying that whatever is the URL, so just select it, right? So let's apply that. So our match rule has been created, and so let's click this done. So now our match rule has been associated. So next thing, what we need to do is we need to assign. So for this case, we will be implementing a very basic service, a pass-through service where we will even skip the backend. So I'll show you how that backend is configured. Uh, Whether it can be the original input that is coming into the data power from the client, or it can be some intermediate result which has been generated uh, by the previous action, right? So you can do multiple processing at multiple stages, so that can produce a multiple outputs, right? So what output or what input you want to use, what you want to associate with this action. uh, so next thing we need to do is so what I did is let's create a gateway script. So what I did is within this gateway script, we are going to create a new file. We are going to call it response um, hello response.js, right? So it's a JavaScript file which we are going to generate. So in order to save time, what I've done is I've already written this code. So now let's quickly go through the code which I've just copied. So next what we are doing at line number 6 is we are setting this variable and telling data power to skip the backend. So there is no need to send this request to the backend. Uh, we will generate the response ourselves within this uh, gateway script. So this line number 10 to 12, 13, we are actually generating the JSON, right? So let's save this uh, and go back to our the interface. Okay, so let's upload this file. So now the file has been uploaded, so we can mark it as done. The last thing we need is this result action. So here we are telling that data power that whatever is the output that has been generated, mark it as a final result for this service, and make sure this direction is client to server. Okay, so now we are done with this. Let's apply this policy. Okay, and let's quickly go back to the original multi-protocol gateway which we were actually generating. So that was hello mpg. So we have configured a processing policy where we have defined the backend. Uh, there are certain cases where we might want to rewrite the URL. In that case, we can generate this URL rewrite policy, but we do not need it now. Um so next thing we specify. So there are use cases where uh, you might want to specify the backend, whether it's going to be a static backend. If it's a static backend, you have to specify its URL here. If it's a dynamic backend, then uh, within a processing uh, within some processing action like gateway script which we just use, or the XSL transformation, we need to set a variable, uh, a service variable, where we will specify the URL for the backend along with the protocol. So let's mark it as dynamic for now, so that we do not have to specify the URL. Next thing we need to do is so TLS client profile. So it's since we are not um, interacting with any backend at the moment, so this is not really needed. So if you are interacting with some backend and you want that communication between data power and the backend to be secured, in that case you need to configure this TLS client profile. So we will cover that in the later tutorials. um, the next thing is the response type. So in our case it's JSON. So you have these different options available uh, which you can select. So in our case it's JSON. So we'll leave the remaining one as default. Next important thing which we need to configure is this front side handler. So this is actually very important. Uh, so this will specify how your service. So up till now, we have defined the processing, how once the data reach into the data power, how that data gets manipulated. But in order to reach how the client will consume the service, this front side handler will define that. Right. So in our case, we will create a new front side handler. So you can see that there are many front side handlers which are available. For now, we are going to use a very simple HTTP handler, since we are trying to expose our service as an HTTP. HTTP hello MPG HTTP. Um, so this is normally a convention people use because it becomes difficult once you have a lot of front side handlers. It becomes really difficult to identify what's the port that has been specified, and so this is normally a convention that gets used. So what is the type of this front side handler and which service it is associated and what's the port. So this is some common practices that are followed, but so another important point that we need to specify is we need to make sure that our get is checked. Otherwise, we'll not be able to invoke our service with get operation. So I think we will stick with the defaults for now. So we need to make sure that whatever the port we are planning to use, we have specified that any unique name that has to be certified. So these are the two important parameters which we need to check. So now our front side handler has also been defined. So we need to associate it with our service. So we can do that by clicking this add button. So the reason why this multi-protocol gateway is preferred is that it allows you to specify multiple front-side handlers on your service. So you specify your implementation once, and you can expose that service on multiple protocols. So request type, we have to specify it's a JSON, right? And we'll stick with the defaults. Okay, so let's apply that. Okay, so our service is configured. So let's quickly verify our service. So it seems that there is some problem with our service. So let's check the logs. Okay, I think we made a mistake, so we have to go and quickly rectify it. So the problem is, I think this spelling was incorrect. So I think I've fixed that here, but it was not reflected on the implementation. So we can go to the policy mpg, within it the rule, the gateway script. So let's re-upload this. So I think you can see that now we are getting a response. So I hope this tutorial is helpful for you. So do let me know in case you have any question. So thank you very much.